Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to go back to the last Royale. Last Royale, if you didn't know, is a battle royale game you can play online. And you know, it's recently actually gotten a little bit more popular. You used to get only 30 to 40 people in a game, now you're getting upwards to 60. You know, I've had some comments in the past saying to post another one and to do it with more tips and tricks, especially with the new number of players and more competition. I'm going to be covering things like movement and dodging, melee skills, inventory management, what to combine, spells, where to use them, when to use them, which one's the best, landing, so where is the best place to land, and many more topics that I'm going to cover throughout the rest of the video. So without further ado, enjoy. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to mention here is how I'm landing in Aquarian's Temple. Now, you know, when you're playing this game, you get usually, I think there's about 3 to 4 lines that the air pistol takes you in. I'm not really sure on that number, but I have, you know, you're going to get the same one. You know, it's not going to take a long time to repeat the same line. But anyway, I'm landing in Aquarian's Temple because it's just outside of the line to where you're going to filter some of that competition, the early game competition you don't want, but also you are going to get some people here, which is good for practicing kills and like I just did, and getting good weapons. Now there are 3 buildings in this location, they're all very good. The one I actually am in right now is probably the worst one, just because it's just all barrels, which, you know, can be hard to hit if you don't have a good melee weapon like I do. And as you just saw previously, I did go, you are allowed to hit through the walls in this game, and you can use that to your own advantage whenever you want to, you know, hit those outside barrels to just see what's in them without actually going to them and wasting time. There's a gold chest in the middle, which sometimes gives you good things, sometimes doesn't, depending on what you have already. Now this guy here makes the mistake of using a spell too early. He uses that poison spell, and in my opinion, you only use a poison spell when you want to block someone or you're going to sneak attack, because it takes a while to pull off, and it covers a lot of area, which wasn't good for him because I was moving fast. And so I get a good amount of stuff from him. So now I want to go into inventory management. So I like to have my melee weapon in slot 2, and then I like to have another melee weapon in slot 3. Now I know the shotgun isn't exactly melee, it's just what I classify in my head because you use it for people who are in close range. So you want to have that close by your melee weapon so you can scroll really fast and get those kills. In slot 4 I like to have the pistols, because I like to have one weapon that's a spell, a long range spell, and then another long range pistol or bow and arrow, just so that I have different, you know, kind of like fuel sources. I have different ways to power up long range weapons, that being mana, arrows, or bullets. Now I am going for this guy here. My aim isn't too good, but I do get off some shots here. He hits me with that blindness, which doesn't matter that much in this one, but the flame weapon is pretty good. Gets that nasty burn side effect, but it does take a little bit longer to reload. Now I get this guy, and then I get the guy from the left. Watch him. He swoops in right in front of me. That's what I'm talking about when I say movement. You want to make sure your character is, you know, in the right place at the right time, so to speak. It sounds really easy to do, but then, you know, you mess up. You need to be aware of who's around you, and who can be charging at you. You want to look from far away. Alright, so now that we have it right in front of us, I want to talk about the boulder staff. The boulder staff is probably one of my favorite, if not just my favorite weapon in this game overall. And now I know a lot of people don't use it, and I know, some other weapons may take priority because they deal a lot of damage at face value, but the boulder staff is very good even at low levels, and I'll explain why. The boulder staff, as you saw there previously, it helps you create space in between your enemies. You can create rocks out of nowhere. On top of this, you might see, as we progress through the video, you can block doors with it, which is very useful, especially in a friend's temple, because in each temple you can block all 4 doors and then try to expect which one the enemy is going to break out of. And depending on the level that you get, they're actually pretty hard, the boulders themselves, to break, which is good. They can also be used for your own protection to create walls, especially in the end game. If a person has an overpowered long-range weapon, you can use that to hinder its effects completely, which I think is just OP in itself. So here we're going to go up against a bunch of people, and plus you can use the boulder staff, as I just did, inside of buildings. That one in the corner there, I attempted to try to hit that guy inside. And as for inventory management, I would put the boulder staff somewhere by the end of your inventory, just because you don't need it as much as physical or long range weapons. The boulder staff is something you can use a lot, but it doesn't do direct damage, and that's why I would put it towards the end of your inventory, right before a cannon or crossbow. Now, talking about the cannon and crossbow specifically, these two are very good weapons. Right now I'm using the cannon that I just used to kill a guy here, and I'm going to be using a bow later on to get this guy down here. But when it comes to the cannon and crossbow, the cannon reloads faster and it does less damage, but it still does very good damage. I think about 40 on average, depending on what level you get. And then you also have your crossbow, which is more damage, and it has a flame effect, but the crossbow takes much longer to reload. Now, when it comes to cannon or crossbow, I already said I do prefer the cannon, but I would also pair that up with a bow and arrow, like I did now, just because you want your inventory to be full of weapons that have a diverse pool of ammo. You don't want to be using a revolver and a cannon because they both use bullets, and you don't want to be using a bow and arrow and a crossbow, obviously, because they both use arrows. You don't want to stall out on any ammo, especially in the end game. When you could be missing a few shots and going all out. That's when we tend to get aggressive, usually the end game. And I'll be describing it here. So we're in the top 5 right now. We're going against this guy here, trying to get a few good shots, get his shield down with the cannon, and then I use the boulder staff to block out that bridge. If he was on that bridge, it would have been game over for him, just because you can't move side to side, and I would have blocked him from moving forward. And the storm is doing pretty good damage at this point. Now here I'm trying to use this net gun, or whatever it's called, to try to get some guys frozen. I'm trying to limit the amount of work I have to do. I'm trying to get everyone into their own fights, which is another strategy. Be that third wheeler. You don't want to be too much in the center of all the action. You want to force other people to do the battles for you, which is kind of what I'm trying to do here. And I'm also using the boulder staff to block that guy off towards the edge of the circle. Now we come here, both guys kill themselves, and we win. Now, let's look at that closer. The guy comes in with his ability, knocks that guy out, but then the first guy gets hit with a flame after effect. So, they both die. So here I get some spikes. Spikes aren't really that good to carry on hand, but just put them by doors whenever you get them. And again, you can see that movement right before the flame hit me. Not just movement and using your WASD keys, but getting used to hitting your E key to open doors is really good. You can use doors to your advantage to block opponents, to confuse them, to get out quickly. It's important you know how to navigate doors. Here I'm in a kind of a cross section between 2 battles, but that guy kills him, and then I go in for the finish with the boulder staff. So I realized I really haven't talked about a lot of other spells besides the boulder staff. The other two great ones that I recommend using are the fire and the ice one. They're good for certain things. I used to really like the ice one better than the fire one, but now I'm kind of unsure. It's just the ice one's really quick, but at the same time, you know, you lose a lot of mana. You get more careless with the shots you take, but it does slow enemies down. But on the other hand, the fire staff, you know, leaves that fire after effect. I mean, when they're not in water, but it also takes longer. The fire staff also does more damage, I believe, which is really good. But I think they both have their unique qualities. But in terms of melee, or in terms of range spells, besides the boulder staff, of course, those two are your go-to. You don't really want to use the electric one, just because, I mean, if you have it and you don't have anything else, use it. But the electric staff, you lose a lot of mana using it. It's slow, it's not that accurate. People can dodge it really easily. And I just also want to talk about how I use that ability, that dash ability. Instead of just bumping into the guy, you know, you can use it to escape situations that could be deadly for you. And on top of that, when it comes to healing items, I recommend just using the ones that are on the ground that you can pick up. I wouldn't really carry any. I would just use right away. They kind of waste space. Now, another underrated weapon, I believe, is the wind's knife or sword. It's really good, especially in Endgame when you can knock people out of the zone. The wind staff is also one of my favorite weapons. It's kind of like a cross between a spell and a melee weapon, just because it's so good. Close range, you can easily push people away from you to damage them in the storm, or just if you're low on health. Here I couldn't get it quite across, but it still works. Anyway, thank you for watching the video. I really appreciate the support. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to hit the next one. See you. And god damn, did anyone see this dodge? Holy shit.